So it was an industry that was tailored around the white, blue-eyed, blonde woman. That was the American ideal of beauty at the time.
She was the face that changed everything, Beverly Johnson, the first Black woman to grace the cover of Vogue. But behind the camera flashes and magazine covers was a harrowing truth, a life fueled by cocaine and just 2 eggs a week.
I was quiet, an introvert. I was a competitive swimmer. I swam at Junior Olympics. I had dreams of going to the Olympics. I was an honor roll student.
Before the flashing cameras and magazine covers, Beverly Johnson was just a bright, driven girl from Buffalo, New York. Born in 1952 to a working-class African-American family, she grew up in a tight-knit community that taught her the value of hard work and resilience.
The civil rights movement that I saw on television, that's when I got the idea that I wanted to become a lawyer, because I thought, right, somehow I would be able to help that situation. I don't know, that's where I got it from.
She wasn't chasing fame. Her dream was to become a lawyer. Beverly was athletic, focused, and had a sharp mind. She never set out to be a model. She was studying criminal justice at Northeastern University when a friend suggested she try modeling during the summer break. She agreed just for fun and just for the money.
So I had to convince my parents that I wanted to work as a model part-time, just for the summer, as opposed to going to college in Northeastern University.
But the moment she walked into that Manhattan photo studio, everything changed. She had that rare, stop-you-in-your-tracks kind of beauty, elegant, poised, magnetic. The camera loved her, and so did the fashion world.
And she says, "You did it, you got the cover." I said, "Oh, the cover of what?" She said, "The cover of Vogue." I said, "Oh, you're kidding." She said, "It's on the stands." Is it at the newsstand now? She said, "Yes."
By 1974, only a few years after that first accidental gig, Beverly Johnson made history, becoming the first Black woman to appear on the cover of American Vogue. The image was iconic, the moment unforgettable. She didn't just pose for a cover, she broke a barrier. But being the first came with a cost.
That's what we want. We want women to have a voice, and we want women to use their voice.
Behind every flawless runway walk and perfect picture cover was a truth. The industry demanded thinness at any cost. And in the 1970s, that cost was high. For Beverly Johnson, the pressure to stay impossibly slim didn't just come from agents or editors. It was baked into the culture of modeling itself. Size 0 wasn't a goal, it was a requirement. She was already making history as the first Black woman on Vogue's cover, but even that milestone didn't protect her from the unrelenting expectations.
And, that was the decade of a lot of excess, and particularly cocaine, because what cocaine did was, first of all, it wasn't addictive.
In her own words, she later admitted, "I lived on cocaine and 2 eggs a week. Not a diet, a survival plan." She wasn't alone. At the time, cocaine was everywhere in the fashion world. It was glamorized, treated like a magic solution. It killed hunger, kept you awake, and helped you power through back-to-back photo shoots without food or rest. For many models, it was practically part of the uniform. But what started as a quick fix turned into something darker.
They said it wasn't addictive. They said that it increased your intelligence, it kills your appetite, it makes your eyes nice and white. It's an elitist drug, it costs a lot of money. You have all these beautiful little crystal bottles and paraphernalia to do it with.
Beverly's body was shrinking, but so was her spirit. The energy highs gave way to emotional crashes. The camera never caught the dizziness, the anxiety, the deep physical toll it was taking. On the outside, she was glowing, but on the inside, she was disappearing day by day, line by line, photo by photo.
You took cocaine when you were pregnant.
Yes, well, I took a 1-in-1, we called it, and a 1-in-1 is 1 in one nostril and 1 in the other.
But the crash was inevitable. Years of starvation and substance abuse finally caught up with her. Beverly Johnson's health, both physical and mental, began to unravel behind the curtain of glamour. Her once glossy hair started falling out. She fainted without warning. Her body, malnourished and exhausted, was begging for mercy. But in the fashion world, vulnerability isn't allowed. So, she smiled. She posed. She kept up appearances, all while silently falling apart.
People didn't say don't smoke and don't drink during that era. We didn't know that until, a couple of decades ago.
Her addiction was no longer casual. it was chronic. What once gave her control was now controlling her, and her body wasn't the only thing breaking down. Mentally, she was unraveling. As a Black woman in an overwhelmingly white industry, Beverly often stood alone. Being the first didn't mean being supported. It meant carrying the weight of representation. Every job, every cover, every camera flash came with the silent pressure of perfection.
Drugs are very dangerous, and we didn't know anything about drugs yet. We didn't know anything about cigarettes.
It wasn't just one bad day. It was years of spiraling, years of surviving on cocaine, and 2 eggs a week, of smiling for cameras while feeling her body slowly shut down. The breaking point came during what should have been a routine photo shoot. Beverly arrived on set, thin, polished, camera-ready on the outside. But inside, she was barely holding it together. She hadn't eaten in days. She was running on nothing but nerves and narcotics. As the lights blazed and the crew buzzed around her, she suddenly felt her knees go weak. Right there in the middle of the shoot, she almost collapsed.
I had a daughter. I had to live for my daughter, I think God puts certain things in your path to strengthen you.
And then she did something almost no one in fashion dared to do at the time. She stopped. She checked herself into rehab. She stepped out of the illusion and told the truth about the addiction, the eating disorder, and the pain masked behind every red carpet photo. She chose recovery over the runway, and at that moment, Beverly Johnson proved she was more than just the face that changed fashion. She was a survivor who had the courage to save herself. Rehab didn't just save Beverly Johnson's life, it gave her a new one.
But now I'm really interested in this trillion-dollar industry, which is the fashion industry, and really having people that look like me participating.
When she emerged, she wasn't trying to go back to who she was. She was building something entirely new. She walked away from the illusion of perfection and leaned into something far more powerful, truth. She began to reinvent herself, not as a supermodel, but as a storyteller, an actress, a businesswoman, a voice. She wrote a memoir, spoke openly about addiction, racism, and the toxic demands of the fashion world. The same industry that once demanded her silence was now hearing her loud and clear.
I think there's problem with racism all around the world, if it's colorism or whatever that's called.
And she didn't hold back. She talked about how her body had been treated like a product, how being the first Black woman on Vogue's cover came with applause, but also deep, invisible wounds. She told young models, "Don't starve for this. Don't lose yourself." Her story became a cautionary tale and a roadmap. Beverly Johnson turned her pain into purpose.
From the first sip and then the second sip, I knew I had been drugged, and I had been drugged really good.
She became a mentor for the next generation, warning them of the same traps that nearly destroyed her. And she didn't just preach change, she pushed for it. She advocated for diversity in fashion long before it became a trend. She called for healthier beauty standards, better representation, and more honest conversations. She had once been a face that changed fashion. Now she was a voice trying to save it.
I was woozy, the moon was spinning. I knew it wouldn't be long before I was unconscious. And I knew that this man had drugged me.
Beverly Johnson survived what was never meant to be survivable. She made it through an industry that chewed her up through fame, starvation, addiction, and the crushing pressure to be flawless. The supermodel on every magazine cover was quietly falling apart, and no one noticed until she almost disappeared. Because the real villain here, it wasn't the drugs, or even the 2-egg diet. It was the system. If Beverly Johnson's story shocked you, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below for more true stories.